The alien colony was always alive with voices, machines, and trade. But on that day, something different happened. A new arrival had come, a human. Most aliens in the settlement looked at him with mild curiosity, some with distrust, and a few with quiet laughter. They whispered among themselves that humans were fragile, simple, and far from impressive. Among those who watched was a young alien girl. She was curious by nature, always asking questions, always wanting to see more than others dared to. She had read about humans before, how they were shorter-lived than most alien races, how their bodies were weaker, how their species had no special abilities. To her, they were ordinary. And yet, something about this one caught her eye. The human had been assigned simple labor. The Alien Council wanted to test his usefulness, so he worked near the colony's outer walls, lifting crates, repairing small machines, and carrying supplies under the twin suns. His work was steady and quiet, without complaint. Sweat ran down his skin as the heat pressed down, but he did not stop. The girl watched from a distance at first, curious about his calmness. He did not look proud or loud like the other species who came to prove their strength. He looked focused, determined. Then, something strange happened as the human wiped his brow. The faint smell of his sweat carried on the dry wind. It was nothing unusual for his kind, just the scent of a body working hard in the heat. But for the alien girl, the moment was different. Her senses sharpened suddenly, as if her body had been struck by an invisible force. Her chest tightened, her pulse quickened, and her skin prickled with heat. She blinked, confused. Why was her body reacting this way? It was only a human. She stepped back quickly, trying to calm herself, but the feeling lingered, strange and unsettling. It was as if her very instincts were being pulled toward him against her will. She had never felt anything like it before. Her mind raced. This is not possible, she thought. Humans are ordinary. They do not affect us. They cannot, and yet her body told her otherwise. The girl tried to ignore it, moving away from the wall and back into the busy market, but her thoughts kept circling back. Every time she closed her eyes, she remembered the scent carried on the air and how it made her feel different. Later that day, she returned. She told herself it was only curiosity, nothing more. She wanted to study him, to prove to herself that her earlier reaction was just her imagination. The human was still working. His hands were rough from labor, his shirt damp with sweat, but his movements were steady, controlled. He looked ordinary, yes, but there was something in the way he moved, something that drew her attention again. The scent carried across the wind, and again her body reacted. A shiver ran down her spine, her breath caught in her throat, and her thoughts clouded for a brief moment. She clenched her fists, furious at herself. Why? She whispered under her breath. Why is this happening? Nearby aliens did not notice. They walked past her, busy with their trades and errands, blind to the storm inside her. The girl stayed longer this time, watching carefully. She began to notice small details about him, the way he worked through exhaustion without slowing, the way he did not complain even when his hands bled, the way he focused on finishing each task with precision instead of rushing. It was not strength of body that impressed her. It was something deeper, something she could not name, and with each hour that passed, her unease grew. She knew she could not tell anyone. If others learned that a human's presence had unsettled her so deeply, they would laugh, or worse, they would see it as a danger. Her people were proud, and they believed themselves above humans. But she knew what she had felt. That night, as the colony lights dimmed and the stars shone bright above, the girl lay awake in her room, replaying the day in her mind. She remembered the human's calm face, his sweat glistening under the suns, and the strange pull in her chest that refused to fade. She whispered to herself in the quiet darkness, "There is something different about him. Something dangerous." It was the beginning of a truth she could not yet understand. The next morning, the alien girl told herself she would stay away from the human. She had convinced herself that what happened yesterday was only a strange moment, perhaps caused by the heat of the suns or her own imagination. She had duties to attend to, errands to run. There was no reason to go near him again, and yet her steps betrayed her. By midday, she found herself near the colony walls where the human was working. He was already there, carrying heavy loads on his shoulders, repairing damaged carts, and moving supplies. His shirt clung to him with sweat, and his face glistened under the bright twin suns. The girl stayed behind the shade of a tall stone pillar, telling herself she was only passing by. But her eyes stayed on him. Then it happened. Again, the faint scent of his sweat drifted across the wind, almost invisible, yet her body recognized it instantly. Her chest tightened, her breathing grew shallow, and her thoughts turned hazy. A warmth spread through her, and she gripped the stone pillar tightly, fighting to steady herself. "No," she whispered to herself. "Not again." She pressed her back to the wall, closing her eyes, trying to block the feeling. But the more she resisted, the stronger it seemed to become. Her body betrayed her, responding to something she did not understand, something that frightened her. When she finally dared to look again, the human had paused to drink from a jug of water. His movements were slow, deliberate, almost graceful. In their simplicity, there was nothing extraordinary about him, and yet her instincts screamed otherwise. The girl's hands shook. She had grown up believing that her kind was above humans, that they were stronger, sharper, more controlled. But here she was, trembling because of something as simple as the scent of a man working under the sun. She pulled her hood low over her face and hurried away before anyone could notice. That evening, she sat with a group of friends in the marketplace. They laughed and traded stories, but her mind was elsewhere. Every sound faded, every face blurred. All she could think about was the strange reaction inside her, the way her body betrayed her when the human was near. One of her friends noticed her distraction. "You're quiet today," the friend said. "Something on your mind?" The girl forced a smile. "Just tired. The suns are too hot." The excuse worked. The conversation shifted again, and she nodded along, pretending to listen. But deep inside, she knew the truth. It wasn't the suns, it wasn't the heat, it was him. The next day, she tested herself. She told herself she would go near him once more, only to prove that she could control it. She found him by the river this time, carrying water buckets with ease. He paused now and then, wiping his brow, his shirt soaked from the heat. The moment the scent reached her, her heart skipped. Her vision blurred for a second. She bit her lip hard, trying to fight the rush that spread through her. But no matter how she resisted, it still came. Her legs felt weak. Her voice caught in her throat. She staggered back, hiding behind a tree, her fists clenched. "Why does this happen?" she thought desperately. "What is wrong with me?" The human glanced toward the trees for a moment, as if sensing eyes on him. Their gazes met briefly, and the girl froze. His expression was calm, unreadable, but something about the way he looked at her made her chest tighten even more. She tore her eyes away, ashamed of herself. That night, she could not sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying every detail. His calm face, his steady movements. The scent that seemed to burn into her memory. She whispered into the darkness, "This is dangerous. If anyone discovers this, her people would not understand. They would mock her. Worse, they might see it as proof that humans carried some hidden threat. And if that happened, they would not hesitate to destroy him." The thought struck her with fear, not fear for herself, But for him, she sat up suddenly, pressing her hands to her chest. Her heart pounded wildly. She had only seen him a few times, only felt this strange pull for a handful of days. And yet, the thought of him being harmed twisted her stomach with dread. "What are you doing to me, human?" she whispered. The following morning, she tried to avoid him again. She stayed in the inner colony, far from the walls. But even then, the whispers followed her. Other aliens spoke casually about the human. Some mocked his fragility. Others admitted he worked harder than they expected. One merchant even said, "The human doesn't tire like we thought. Maybe he is stronger than he looks." Her ears burned at their words. They did not know the half of it. She left quickly, her thoughts spiraling. Each day, her reaction grew. Stronger each day, her body betrayed her more. And each day, her secret became harder to hide. The human was ordinary to everyone else. But to her, he was something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something she could no longer ignore. The alien girl tried her best to act normal. She told herself again and again that she could control it, that no one would ever know what she felt when the human was near. But secrets had a way of slipping through cracks, and in the colony, nothing stayed hidden for long. At first, it was only small things. She found excuses to walk near the colony walls where the human worked. She lingered longer than others when passing him. She asked questions about his tasks that seemed unnecessary. Alone, these things meant little. But together, they were noticed. One afternoon, as she stood watching him haul crates under the twin suns, a voice startled her. "Why do you look at him so often?" She turned sharply. Two of her friends stood nearby, curiosity in their eyes. "I don't," she said quickly. Too quickly. "I was only checking the repairs." Her friends exchanged glances. One of them raised a brow. "You never cared about repairs before, but now you come here almost every day." Heat rose to her cheeks. She forced a laugh. "It's just curiosity. He is human. I've never seen one work up close." Her friends seemed satisfied for the moment, but as they walked away, she caught the faint sound of whispering between them. That night, her unease grew. If even her friends noticed, how long before the council or others began to ask questions? She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her chest heavy with dread. The next day, the whispers grew louder. In the market, she overheard merchants talking. "The young one spends too much time near the human." "Do you think she is studying him?" A soldier added with a sneer. "Or maybe she is fascinated by him. Strange, isn't it? Why waste attention on such a weak creature?" The words stabbed at her, not because they mocked the human, but because they struck too close to her own truth. She hurried away before anyone saw the panic on her face. Later, while walking through the square, she passed a group of elders. Their voices were low but heavy with suspicion. "Have you seen her? Always near the human, watching him." "I noticed too. Her behavior is unusual. We should keep an eye on this. Humans may seem harmless, but influence spreads quietly." Her stomach tightened. Influence. That was the word they used when something was considered dangerous to their society. If they believed the human carried influence over her, they would act quickly to remove him. She clenched her fists. They must not know. They cannot know. That evening, she visited the human again. He was working near the outer fence, repairing a broken cart. His shirt was damp, his hands covered in dust. He looked tired but steady, his face calm as always. She stood in the shadows, watching him. The scent reached her again, and her chest filled with that same heat. That same storm she could not explain. But this time, her fear mixed with it. Fear that someone was watching her. Fear that someone would see her trembling hands, her quickened breath. The human paused, as if sensing her unease. He lifted his head and looked toward the shadows. Their eyes met. For a moment, it felt as though he could see through her mask, through every wall she had tried to build. Her breath caught. She turned quickly and hurried away, her heart pounding. The next day, whispers became questions. As she walked through the market, an older alien woman called out to her, "Child, why do you go near the humans so often? What draws you there?" The girl froze, eyes wide. I only don't lie," the woman cut in sharply. "We see you. Others see you. If there is something dangerous about him, you must tell us." "The colony cannot afford risks," the girl stammered, shaking her head. "He is not dangerous. He works hard, nothing more." The woman's eyes narrowed, studying her. Then she turned away, muttering under her breath, "Strange things happen when humans are near." Strange things, indeed. The words followed her like a shadow. That night, she sat alone, hugging her knees to her chest. The voices of the colony echoed in her mind, whispers of curiosity, suspicion, and fear. She had tried to keep her secret hidden, but already, cracks were showing. Her body reacted more strongly each day, and she could not hide it forever. Someone would notice her trembling, her flushed face, her lingering gaze. And when they did, the human would pay the price. She buried her face in her hands. What am I supposed to do? Her people believed humans were weak. Yet here she was, shaken to her core by one man's simple presence. If she admitted it, they would laugh. If she confessed the truth, they might fear him, even harm him. And yet, hiding it tore at her. Each day, the secret grew heavier, the fear sharper. On the 7th day, she returned to the market and found her friends waiting. Their eyes were sharp, filled with curiosity that bordered on suspicion. "You must tell us," one said. "Why do you watch him?" Kaya's throat tightened. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Her silence was enough. The whispers spread again, louder than ever. By nightfall, the colony buzzed with quiet rumors. Some said she was bewitched by the human. Others claimed humans carried hidden scents meant to control alien minds. A few went further, whispering that if one alien girl was affected, perhaps the entire colony was at risk. The girl lay awake, her heart heavy with dread. The truth had not been spoken aloud, but the fear was already alive in their minds. She turned her gaze to the stars beyond her window and whispered to herself, "They will not understand. They will never understand." But deep inside, she knew. The whispers would only grow louder, and sooner or later, someone would act on them. The alien girl could not rest. For days, the whispers in the colony had followed her everywhere. No matter where she went, she felt the eyes of others on her back, felt their quiet voices ripple through the air. They spoke of the human, of her. Strange behavior, of dangers unseen. But the greater danger, she knew, was inside her. Every time she thought of him, her heart quickened. Every time she remembered his scent, heat stirred in her chest. She had tried to deny it, tried to hide it, but her body refused to obey. It was no longer enough to pretend. She had to know. She had to understand. That morning, before the suns climbed too high, she walked with purpose toward the colony's edge. She told herself she would not run. She told herself she would not hide in shadows like before. She would face the truth directly. The human was there, as always, working near the outer walls. He lifted wooden beams onto his shoulders, his muscles straining under the weight, his clothes damp with sweat. His movements were steady, his face calm, his breath deep. The girl stopped a short distance away, her hands clenched at her sides. The air was warm, heavy, and then, there it was again. The scent, it drifted toward her, carried on the faint breeze. Her chest tightened, her pulse quickened, and her vision blurred slightly. She pressed her lips together, refusing to retreat. This time, her body trembled, but she held her ground. She stepped closer. The human noticed her approach. He did not stop working, but his eyes flicked toward her, acknowledging her presence. There was no mockery in his gaze, no suspicion, only calm recognition. That simple look made her throat tighten. She forced herself to speak, though her voice shook. Human eye, I want to see something. He paused, lowering the beam he carried. His brow furrowed slightly, curious. See what? Her hands balled into fists. You, up close. It was a strange request, and even she knew it. But she could not explain the storm inside her any other way. The human studied her for a moment, then nodded once. Then look. The words were simple, but they carried no fear, no hesitation. He stood calmly, letting her step closer, letting her eyes study him. The girl's gaze swept over him. She saw the lines of strain in his arms, the sweat that clung to his skin, the dust that marked his hands. Ordinary, she thought. He should be ordinary. But every breath she took carried that same scent, and her body responded with heat and trembling. She could not control. Her voice came out low, almost broken. Why? Why does this happen? The human tilted his head slightly. What happens? She shook her head, turning away quickly. Nothing. Forget I asked. But the human did not press. He simply returned to his work, lifting and carrying. With steady rhythm, yet the girl could not move. She stayed, watching, her body fighting against itself. Minutes passed, then hours. Each time the breeze shifted, the scent returned, and each time her body reacted, stronger than before. By midday, her chest was heaving, her throat dry. Her mind clouded with questions she could not answer. Finally, she could take no more. She stepped forward again. Human, she said sharply. Tell me, what is it about you? What is it that changes me? He paused once more, his calm eyes meeting hers. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then, with quiet certainty, he replied, Perhaps it is not me that changes you. Perhaps it is you, seeing me for the first time as I am. His words struck her like a blade. She staggered back, confusion twisting in her chest. Seeing him as he is. What did that mean? She hurried away before she could ask again, her mind burning with questions. That night, she tested herself again. She returned, this time when the suns had set, when the human sat resting near a fire. He looked up as she approached, the flames casting shadows across his face. You came again, he said quietly. She hesitated, then sat across from him, her eyes fixed on the fire. Yes, because I must know. The scent lingered even here, softer but still sharp. Her chest tightened again, but she forced herself to stay. They sat in silence for a long while, the fire crackling between them. Finally, she spoke. My people say humans are weak, that you are fragile and simple. But my body says otherwise. It reacts to you as if you're dangerous. The human's lips curved faintly, not a smile, but something close. And what do you believe? Her throat tightened. She could not answer. She had grown up with her. People's beliefs pressed into her heart, yet every moment with him tore those beliefs apart. She whispered, I don't know anymore. The human nodded once, as though he understood. He did not laugh at her confusion. He did not question further. He only said, Then keep looking until you do. The girl left the fire that night, shaken. She had tested herself, and the truth was clear. Her reactions were not imagination, they were real. Each time she was near him, her body changed, her instincts sharpened, her emotions twisted. She whispered to herself as she walked through the dark colony streets, This is no weakness. This is power, and it frightens me. The whispers in the colony had already begun to spread. But now, for the first time, she feared not just their voices. She feared the truth itself, because the human was not ordinary. He was something else, something her people could not understand, and something they might try to destroy if they ever discovered the truth. The alien girl tried to go about her days as if nothing was wrong. She walked the markets, she spoke to her friends, she visited her family. But no matter where she went, she felt it the eyes, watching, studying, whispering. Her secret was slipping from her hands every time she passed through the colony square. She caught fragments of voices. She goes near the human too often. She lingers by the walls when he works. Perhaps he has done something to her. The words burned her ears. She tried to ignore them, but with each passing day, the whispers grew sharper, heavier. Even those who once defended her began to question, and worst of all, she saw how the human's name began to appear in their voices, not as curiosity, but as threat. One afternoon, as she filled her basket in the market, two merchants spoke openly. Near her, "The human unsettles me," one muttered. "He is too calm, too quiet. There is something unnatural in it." "Perhaps that is why the girl behaves strangely," the other replied. "Perhaps humans carry some hidden power." The girl froze, her chest tightening. She wanted to shout, to tell them they were wrong, but the fear inside her silenced her tongue. If she spoke, she would only confirm their suspicions. She hurried away, her heart pounding. That night, as she sat alone in her room, she pressed her hands to her face and whispered, "They cannot know. They must not know." But deep down, she realized they already suspected by the end of the week. The whispers reached the council. The chamber was filled with elders and leaders, their voices rising in concern. The commander was the first to speak. His tone sharp and suspicious. "This behavior cannot be ignored. The girl spends too much time near the human. Already, others whisper of strange influences. If we allow this to spread, fear will tear through the colony." An elder nodded grimly. "Humans are said to be harmless. Yet why does one affect her so strongly? Perhaps their weakness is a mask, hiding something more dangerous." Another added, "We must act. If the girl has been changed, we must protect our people. If the human carries power, we must remove him before it spreads." Their words carried weight, and none spoke in his defense. Only the old gray leader remained silent. He sat with his hands folded, his eyes narrowed in thought. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm but heavy. "Perhaps we are too quick to fear. The girl is young, and curiosity often misleads youth. But I will admit this, if her behavior continues, we cannot dismiss it as chance. We must watch closely." The council agreed. Watch, study, and, if needed, act. The girl did not know the council's decision, but she felt the shift. Guards began to follow the human's movements more closely. Soldiers lingered near the walls where he worked. Eyes grew sharper, voices harsher. The air itself carried suspicion. She felt the danger pressing closer each day. If the council believed the human had influence over her, they would not hesitate. They would remove him quietly, permanently. The thought struck her chest like ice. She could not let that happen. The next evening, she went to him again. He sat by a small fire outside the walls, resting after a long day of labor. When she appeared, he looked up, his calm eyes meeting hers. "You came again," he said softly. She hesitated, then sat across from him, the fire crackling between them. Her voice trembled. "They are speaking about you." The human tilted his head. "What do they say?" She lowered her gaze. "That you are dangerous. That you are changing me. That perhaps your kind is not as weak as they believed." For the first time, a shadow crossed his calm face. And do you believe them? Her chest tightened. She wanted to say no. She wanted to tell him it was all lies. But her body betrayed her, her racing heart, her trembling hands. The way her very being shifted when she was near him. I don't know what I believe, she whispered. But I know they are afraid. And when my people are afraid, they act. The human studied her quietly, his eyes steady, unshaken. Then the question is not what they fear. The question is what you will do with what you know. Her breath caught his words cut deep, as always. I cannot protect you, she admitted. If they decide to remove you, I will be powerless. Perhaps, he said calmly, but perhaps not. Fear spreads quickly, but so does truth. And truth has a power fear cannot erase. She shook her head, her chest burning. You don't understand. They will not listen. To them, you are already guilty. The human leaned forward, his voice low, but firm. Then you must decide who you are loyal to, the lies of fear, or the truth you have seen with your own eyes. Her throat tightened. She wanted to deny him, to argue, but she could not. Because she had seen the way her body reacted. Seen the way his presence unsettled not only her, but the very foundations of what her people believed. And now, the truth was dangerous. She rose to her feet suddenly, turning away. I don't know if I am strong enough. The human's voice followed her into the night. Strength is not found in certainty. It is found in choice. That night, as she lay awake, the weight of his words pressed down on her. She could no longer hide behind silence. The council watched, the colony whispered, and the truth burned inside her, soon. She would have to choose. Protect the human and betray her people, or protect her people and destroy the human, either way. The secret she carried was no longer hers alone. It was dangerous knowledge, and it was only a matter of time before it consumed them all. The alien girl felt the weight of the colony pressing in on her with every passing day. The market was no longer filled with friendly chatter. Instead, eyes followed her wherever she went. Conversations fell silent when she entered. Whispers grew sharper, louder, impossible to ignore. She is different now. The human has touched her mind. She cannot be trusted. Her stomach twisted every time she heard it. She tried to walk with her head held high, tried to pretend. Their words did not pierce her, but inside she was breaking. What frightened her most was not their suspicion, it was the look of quiet fear that spread through their faces when they spoke of the human. Fear was dangerous. Fear always led to action, and action came sooner than she expected. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky burned red, guards appeared at her family's home. Their voices were cold, their orders clear. The council summons you. Her chest tightened. She knew what this meant. The whispers had reached their peak. The council would no longer sit in silence. They led her through the streets, past watching eyes, past voices that murmured like buzzing insects. The path led to the council chamber, a vast hall of stone and steel where decisions of life and death were made. Inside, the council waited. The commander stood tall at the center, his eyes sharp and unforgiving. The elders sat in a half circle, their faces shadowed, their voices low. And then she saw him, the human. He stood near the entrance, flanked by 2 guards, his hands bound loosely with cord. But he did not look afraid. His face was calm, his eyes steady, as if he had walked here by choice. When their gazes met, her chest tightened. His calmness gave her strength, but it also made her wonder. Did he already know what was coming? Commander's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. You have both been brought here because the colony no longer trusts what it sees. Too many whispers, too many questions. It is time for truth. The girl tried to speak, but the commander raised a hand. His eyes burned with accusation. Why do you linger near the human? Why do you tremble in his presence? Speak plainly, for your silence condemns you. Her throat went dry. Every word she wanted to say tangled inside her chest. She looked at the human, desperate, but he gave no signal, no command. Only that same calm, steady gaze that seemed to say, "You must choose." The old gray leader spoke next, his tone heavy. "Child, you know the laws. If a human carries influence that threatens our people, we must act. Tell us, does he control you?" The girl's heart raced. She wanted to scream no. She wanted to insist that the human had done nothing. But her body betrayed her, the trembling hands, the quickened breath, the heat that rose whenever she was near him. Even if she denied it, they would see her as a liar. The commander slammed his hand against the stone table. "This is no ordinary worker. He is dangerous. His very presence twists you. Look at her, she shakes even now. We do not remove him. Soon others may fall to the same sickness." The word sickness struck her like a dagger. The human finally spoke. His voice was calm, but it carried through the hall with quiet power. "She is not sick, she is not controlled. Now, what she feels is not weakness, it is truth." The chamber erupted with voices. Some shouted in anger, others in fear. The commander roared above them all. "Silence. You dare speak here, human?" The human did not flinch. "You fear what you do not understand. You fear because you see something that challenges the lies you have told yourselves." The commander's face twisted with rage. He turned to the guards. "Take him outside. We will end this tonight." The girl's heart froze. She stepped forward, her voice breaking. "No, you cannot. He has done nothing." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Then explain your behavior. Explain why you stand before us trembling, why your own people whisper against you." Her chest heaved. The truth clawed inside her. She wanted to run, to hide, to deny everything. But the human's words echoed in her mind. Strength is not found in certainty. It is found in choice. She closed her eyes, drew a sharp breath, and spoke. "He does not control me. What I feel, it comes from me, from my own body, my own instincts. His presence changes me, yes, but not because he forces it. Because that is what humans are. They are not weak. They are not ordinary. They carry something inside them we do not understand." The chamber fell silent. The commander's face turned pale with fury. "You admit it then? He is dangerous." "No," she said sharply, her voice trembling but clear. "He is not dangerous. He is powerful, different, and it frightens you because you cannot explain it." Her words hung in the air like fire. The old gray leader leaned forward, his eyes sharp, but not angry. "What is it you believe, child?" She turned her gaze toward the human, her chest tightening with both fear and pride. "I believe humans are not what we thought. And if we destroy him, we destroy a truth greater than our fear." The hall erupted against them in outrage, some in disbelief, some in fearful silence. The commander shouted for order, but the voices clashed like thunder. Through it all, the human stood calm, his eyes never leaving hers. And in that moment, she knew she had crossed a line that could never be erased. The truth was spoken, and the confrontation had only just begun. The council chamber was chaos. Voices clashed like storm winds, anger and fear rising on every side. Some shouted for the human's removal, demanding swift action. Others spoke in hushed tones, shaken by the girl's words, unable to deny the conviction in her voice. The commander roared above them all. "This proves it. The human carries power we cannot allow. If he changes one of us, he could change many more." End this now, before it spreads. The guards tightened their grip on their weapons, ready to drag the human away. But before they could move, the old gray leader rose slowly to his feet. His presence alone silenced the chamber. His voice was calm but heavy, like stone grinding against stone. Wait. All eyes turned to him. He looked first at the girl, then at the human, and finally at the council. We have lived our lives believing strength lies only in power claws, weapons, dominance. And yet, what we see before us is something else. Not dominance, not force, but influence. The human has done nothing, and still, change has taken root. His words echoed through the hall. Even those who hated the human could not ignore them. The commander spat in frustration. You call this influence a gift? It is poison. Look at her shaking, trembling, lost in confusion. The girl's voice rose, sharp with defiance. I tremble not because he controls me, but because I face the truth you are too afraid to see. Humans are not weak. They are not prey. They are something more, and you cannot accept it. The chamber fell silent again. Her voice, though trembling, carried a fire that burned through every ear. The human finally spoke, his voice steady, calm, yet powerful. You fear me because I remind you of something you have forgotten. Power is not only in claws or strength. Power is in what cannot be broken. Humans bend, but we do not shatter. We endure storms. We endure fear. And sometimes, what endures becomes stronger than what dominates. The words struck deep. Even the commander faltered for a breath, his face tightening. The old gray leader nodded slowly. Yes, that is why he unsettles us. Not because he threatens with violence, but because he carries a truth we cannot explain. A truth that spreads without weapons, without orders. A truth that touches even those who wish to deny it. The girl felt her chest tighten with both fear and pride. She looked at the human, her voice soft but firm. You changed me, but not because you tried. You changed me because you are different. Because your kind carries something inside that even our strongest cannot resist. The human's gaze met hers, calm and steady. I did not come to change you. I only came as I am. It was your choice to see. The silence that followed was heavier than any roar. Finally, the commander slammed his fist against the table. His voice was low, bitter, but no longer certain. If what you say is true, then humans are more dangerous than I imagined. For if their presence alone changes us, what happens if more of them arrive? The old leader answered quietly. Then? Perhaps it is not danger we should fear, but blindness. If we close our eyes, we will fight them. But if we open them, perhaps we will learn. The commander's face twisted with rage, but the fire in the room had shifted. The council no longer roared with anger. They sat in uneasy silence, shaken by what they had seen and heard. At last, the commander barked, "Enough. The human may live for now, but we will watch him closely." He turned away, his voice breaking with frustration. The council adjourned, but the damage was done. The truth could not be erased. As the hall emptied, the girl approached the human. Her voice trembled, but her eyes held quiet strength. They will not stop watching you. They may still try to end this. The human nodded calmly. I know, but you spoke the truth tonight, and truth cannot be caged forever. Her throat tightened. I was afraid. Afraid of what I felt, afraid of what they would do. But now, I see it clearly. You are not weak. Your kind is not fragile. What you carry, it is dangerous, yes, but not because it destroys, because it changes. The human gave a faint nod. Change always begins with fear. But fear is the first step to understanding. For a moment, they stood in silence, the fire of the council's judgment still burning in their hearts. Then, quietly, she whispered, "You are more powerful than they will ever admit." He turned his gaze toward the stars shining beyond the open chamber. "Not powerful," he said softly, "just human. And sometimes that is enough to shake empires." The girl never forgot that night. The colony never forgot either. The human was watched, doubted, whispered about, but the seed of truth had been planted. For generations, her people had laughed at humans, called them fragile, dismissed them as weak. But now, a single human had proven something greater, that true power does not always roar or strike, it lingers quietly, shifting hearts, unsettling beliefs, and leaving those who witness it forever changed. And though the girl still trembled when she caught his scent, she no longer feared it. Because now she understood. Humans were not weak. They were dangerous because they carried a power no one could see, but everyone could feel, and that power was the very reason the galaxy would never truly understand them.